Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. This video is about what should divide us versus what is dividing us. First of all, in Matthew 10, right, Christ, as a character in the story, famously said that he came to bring a sword. And I'm Christ in real life. Right? I came to slice it correctly, but it's more specific than that. At this point, I came to seal everyone who doesn't obey God through me in hell, except for my parents, who I have ruled are blameless, not based on emotion, but based on the facts and on sound logic. So you get people like Lily Gaddis, you get various people who are Republicans, who talk about the dangers, the quote-unquote dangers of what they call race mixing. Now you have to realize that white people aren't all the same exact race for many reasons. So why would they make this argument? Well, because rich people want to divide people, and some are proud to be white, but they see it's a good tool to divide people. But more importantly, they don't want people to break into groups of those who are righteous versus those who are wicked, because righteous people tend to prevail in that situation. For example, those 5 people who are about the same size as another 5 people, and 5 of the people wanted to abuse a child, and 5 of the people wanted to protect that child, the 5 people trying to protect that child would probably win that fight. And so nature shows us that the righteous have a superior evolutionary force that transcends the flesh, that goes into the realm of principle. When David beat Goliath, he won. And when Christ was crucified, he won. And Stephen the martyr was martyred, he won. And John the Baptist was martyred, he won. So on top of the natural flesh-based advantage, which seems to be confounded by technology, but it's not, because of the principle-based advantage, because all true victories are in principle. So on top of that, you have the fact that all true victories are in principle. So as we look at this case, of people talking about how mixing ruins their genes, right? So is Lily Gaddis, for example, all German? She looks like she's a crypto Jew, right? She's an LGBT crypto Jew. There's many people in the white community who feel LGBT people ruin their genes. Okay, that's not been something that's been concealed over the years. How many people in churches don't want their daughters to marry someone who's bisexual, for example? So it's retarded to look at this situation and for white people to say, hey, let's keep our race pure. What is your race? Are you part Scottish, part Irish, part German, part English, part Norwegian? What are you? When you do your DNA test, don't you see that you're already mixed? So what are you referring to? You're referring to the image of the Greco-Roman slave masters and the slaves? So you want your children to look like a slave master, a neo-slave master, if it makes you feel better, or a neo-slave, and I'm not even just talking about American slave masters, I'm talking about Roman slave masters who enslaved other white people. So in the name of white supremacy, you want to conform to a white neo-slave master breeding culture. Okay? And for those who are confused about that, there's Greek frats in college, and they're very instrumental in controlling dating relations, what have you. There's Freemasons. There's the Club of Rome, which is said to be the most powerful known secret society in the world. It's called the Club of fucking Rome, not the Club of white people. So you're trying to maintain the image of those Roman lunatics who would throw people into the lion's den, who had gladiator matches like corrupt cops and corrupt COs, rather, in prisons. And these people who used to rape their slaves and whip them because they're narcissists, not necessarily because they did anything wrong. And that's the look you want your children to have? That's more important to you than dating based on the content of the character? That's fucking retarded. And then you complain about how you're censored. You got 48,000 views per video. Lily, for example. Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens. Okay. Well, she actually, is in a mixed relationship, but she kind of leans right. But you get what I'm saying. You people have lots of views, you who complain about being censored. I'm the one who's censored. When's the last time I had 48,000 views? It's been like 10 years since I had a video like that or something. Maybe more than that. I'm censored for telling the truth and for slicing things correctly. You're not really censored. You say outrageous things that are basically hate crimes. You called that Mexican female, very attractive female, dates this white guy. Okay, I'm sure he feels very happy to have her. You said that her group of people, right, her race, you called them an invasive species. That is a hate crime. You can't go on camera and start calling people names. Now, if you're under mind control or something, then the government should be held accountable first and foremost. But at some point, you got to catch your mistake. At some point, if I was a judge and you caught your mistake in a reasonable amount of time and you could show me that you were under mind control, I say, okay, that's fair enough. But you can't go on and on for years and call people names and spit blatant falsehoods. You're smart enough to know that the things you're saying aren't true. You're probably being coerced or something. I see a part of you as like daddy's little girl, and you know that you're in way over your head. Not because you'll necessarily get hurt for your videos. You probably won't. People these days are idiots. Not that you should be hurt for it or not. But because you're offending God by doing what is wrong, by doing what is evil. You call people who are mixed an M-U-T. Or is it M-U-T-T? The annotation showed as M-U-T. And I'm mixed. You basically call me a racist name. When I'm the top martial artist, you're just a blonde white chick. Just another clueless type. But another Sabrina the Teenage Witch, a dime a dozen. Unimportant. Trying to be important by being racist. Dumber than hell. Less than the average blonde chick. They call, Obama a dumb, mulatto? Or do they call blonde chicks a dumb blonde? In your own culture, you're just a dumb blonde. Then you're going to turn around and act like your genes are superior or that people like you should think of them as superior. That's wrong. You see how you don't have even the beginning of a case, just like the people persecuting me. You don't want to go point by point. Today I saw on the news that Trump ordered a strike, or his administration rather, or whoever. They ordered a strike on 11 people who were smuggling drugs. For all you know, those people who are smuggling drugs, the drug dealers have their family held hostage, what have you. But they decided to forget the due process, just blow them up for smuggling drugs. They're going to change the laws, and all of a sudden, now you get executed for smuggling drugs. Now, I know those drugs kill a lot of people. Those people should be punished to the extreme, but there should be a court process. They should have went through the court system, maybe raise the punishment. Maybe they even get the death penalty. But they should have gone through some kind of system to make sure everything's on the up and up. But they just executed them. And it's that same insanity, right, that inspired Christ as a character in the story to say, first remove the log from your own eye, then remove the speck from your brother's. Almost every single adult in America right now must know that the reason why so many people sell drugs is because among the governing class, there's two factions in regards to drug dealing. One, they're the faction that inspires people to sell drugs. Two, they're the faction that's tasked with punishing them for selling drugs. As I say, the government brings in the drugs. They've never presented a viable counterargument for not only the government bringing the drugs during Iran-Contra, but they also are still bringing in the drugs. They can't even present a counterargument for the argument that they're still doing it. The DEA, right? One DEA agent went on record and said that the DEA has been selling drugs for a long time. And he was a former DEA agent. He was at a meeting in Los Angeles, I believe it was. There's been people testifying to it. Freeway Rick, for example. He was basically selling drugs for the CIA and them. One of the most famous drug dealers in American history. And you see these people being deported without due process. People are feeding into the idea that America is magically always right, and that you should blindly support them, and that you should kill and abuse whoever they tell you to. Just like we're seeing with the purges across the world with the starvation. 9 million people starve to death a year. Why? Because they're the types of people that the governing class wants to starve to death. And because they want to coerce the women from the countries they're from, and other countries as well. They say things like beggars can't be choosers. why they're molesting children. The Romans molested children in the churches, and not just the Roman Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church. Quite often they're caught molesting children, and sometimes the numbers are unbelievably great. Like the French Catholic churches, thousands and thousands. It was like 300,000 children or something. It's an enormous number because it's a systematic process. Can you imagine that you're in, the church and you're the staff and you don't notice that they've been molesting thousands and thousands of children in your region? Say you're the head of the Catholic Church in France or some region. You think that they didn't know? They knew. It was systematic. They knew like Epstein knew. They probably made a stupid Epstein face. You think I'm supposed to respect people who are so negligent when it comes to obeying God? They're so out of touch with sound judgment. They're in the spirit of folly and bad judgment. That they don't know that they're going to a church that's not doing God's work when they're molesting thousands of children? We see in Ezekiel where God says he's going to purge the rebels. He said, purge them. Don't join them. And first remove the log from your own eye, which would allow you to see plainly that you must first rally and obey God through me. You can't just on your own as some self-righteous idiot say, hey guys, let's start smoking them or something. That's stupid. However, there are things you can do on your own. But if you want to go to heaven, I am the way. There's not a bunch of ways. There's not saying that guy's a cool scientist, and that guy's a cool celebrity, and that guy is a good speaker, and that guy, is a good entertainer. Maybe they're the way. They're not the way. The people in the churches aren't the way. I am the way. You get these people saying, you lost me on that one. Good. You are lost, period. And if you don't want to be found, then go to hell. I don't need any of you. Matthew 6. I don't worry about what I'm going to eat or drink or where I'm going to sleep. God has a plan for me. And I'm ready to endure all hardship. I don't need anybody to help me. You need to obey God through me to go to heaven. That is the only way. Can you imagine being so dumb that you think you know better than the top martial artist ever? Let me help you understand this for a moment here. So you have Master Splinter from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles back in the day, right? When people saw that cartoon character, little kids, they said, I think that guy's smarter than the Ninja Turtles. I think he's smarter than April O'Neil. I think he's smarter than everyone else in that fucking cartoon, martial artist or otherwise. Little kids understood that. Now, if he's not monotheistic, he's not that smart. If he's trying to benefit from the sabotage of black people, he's not that smart. You have Mr. Miyagi from the Karate Kid back in the day. Little kids understood. That's short. So anyway, as we look at these characters in these cartoons and these movies, and keep in mind they've made movies about the Bible, right? Mel Gibson's movie, and also The Greatest Story Ever Told, and more other movies. There's cartoons about the Bible. It's a story with a moral. Now, is it moral valid? Or are they trying to mislead you? Yes, we know that the top martial artist is more insightful when it comes to life than everyone else. David, when he was fighting Goliath, was trying to come into the shoes of the top martial artist, Benaiah, and David's mighty men. See 2 Samuel. These stories of these mighty men going to war, taking on countless guys, right? And they're figurative stories, but there's a reason why they're comparing it to a martial artist striking down hundreds of people in one battle. In one battle, it's a single martial artist, say he's a part of a group. One of them, all the other Israelites flee. He stays there with his sword, his weapon, and he strikes down hundreds of people. That is something that's seen as a sign from God. When someone's the top martial artist ever possible, it's a sign from God. I don't have to strike down hundreds of people. I don't have to walk on water. Think about it. That's like you have a bunch of troops surrounded. Okay? And they're like, well, you're not walking on water, so I'm not going to surrender. And then you kill them. Now, depending on who surrounds who is whether or not they should surrender, right? And whether or not it's coming from God, right? It's principle. Speaking of principle, that goes back to me. You see somebody challenging everyone on the planet over the idea whether or not he's Christ. You see the churches hiding tail tucked. Other martial artists hiding tail tucked. They're afraid to accept the challenge. They don't want to accept the challenge. They saw it as a sign from God that they could not beat him. And for those who weren't religious, they saw it as a sign from the spiritual realm that they couldn't win. They said, this guy's way, way better than they are. And they're just going to lose if they show up. And the $50, they would get just for showing up wasn't enough for them to lose. They're too proud for that. They knew they couldn't win the award money because they weren't as good as I am. And they aren't as good as I am. Because God set me apart. And in 1 Samuel 17, you see that, right? If he overcomes him and da-da-da-da-da. Do they say it's the root and offspring of Lily Gaddis running her mouth like a racist idiot, like an inbred fool? Or is it the root and offspring of the idea of someone who is the best at supernatural and natural single combat in one, which is martial arts? Martial is marital scramble, and I, Christ, and the bridegroom. So they changed my voice. The gap is so big that they started acting like racist, immature, satanic Jewish pedophiles who take their sweet time sucking on foreskin and make a weird kid suck face. And they say, well, we don't like him because he doesn't observe our ways. He doesn't mix our spirits together, and he isn't one of us. So we're going to sabotage them. You know how fucking retarded they are, and they look when they do that. They look like they just got done sucking a kid. They look so fucking stupid, persecuting the top martial artists ever, completely disgracing their groups. With their white supremacist allies, their LGBT allies. They look like they just, I'm going to have to go there to a place that's kind of disgusting to help you understand. So brace yourself. They look like they just got done tossing a kid's fucking salad and thinking that makes them number one. That's how fucking retarded they are. They're better off doing that than persecuting me. But these people are far too fucking immature to put that together. Because the gap is that great. Okay, so no offense to anyone other than the offense that God intended. To my ex-fiance, I wanted to forgive you. You didn't want to come back to be forgiven. Maybe you'll see these videos one day, maybe you won't. I wanted to forgive everybody. Okay, and time seems to be running out, and I'm okay with that. Whatever God has planned for me, I'm okay with that. I'm not panicking, I'm not worried. They changed my voice to try to make it so I sound maybe afraid or maybe this. I'm not afraid at all. They try to confuse you about that so that you follow them instead of doing what you're supposed to do, which is follow me. I've been on quite a long journey here in terms of all the persecution I've endured. And, I was engaged to, this female, and she was a white female, and it didn't make me racist when she did me wrong. When Maria rejected me at Live Oak, and it really took a toll on me, and the heartbreak caused me to go to reform school. My parents were very protective, and they saw me acting up. They sent me to reform school. Okay. There's been a lot of shady stuff that's happened. The government has used technology on me basically my whole life, as far back as I can remember. They're using technology on you all as well, to varying degrees, and they're controlling your behavior a lot more than you think that they are. I've declared victory before on behalf of God. His point is proven. The opposition view, they don't want to go point by point with me publicly. They have lost. And on top of that, they've resorted to sabotage. Understand the situation. Understand what's going on.